the pleasure of introducing our speaker, our presenter this morning. Her name is Kalaiku Wong. She is the Hawaiian Culture-Based Education Coordinator for Nakula Kamali'i with Kamehameha Schools. She's worked in the early education field, including Hawaiian immersion, Hawaiian language immersion, and hybrid models to support and perpetuate the Hawaiian culture. She has also worked as both a teacher, kumu, and a program director, which provides experience with developmentally appropriate practices, curriculum development, effective teaming, ohana engagement, and professional development. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in Hawaiian language and a master's degree in education. We are so happy to be here for her presentation, Ka Nohona Ahupuaʻa, or Life in the Ahupuaʻa. Kalaiku, mahalo yaʻoi.
Mahalo, Eluana. Aloha mai kākou. Mahalo nui for joining us this morning. Like Luana said, this is one of the longer sessions, and the reason it's longer is because we added some audience participation into our presentation. Really, the goal of today is to share resources and to encourage you on your journey with HCBE or Hawaiian culture-based education, whether that's with your family or you're in a school setting, an office setting, you're working with children, you're working with adults, whatever it is. We're all on some kind of a journey in life. And so what we wanted to do today was present a couple of resources that we have created for Kamehameha preschools, to share that with you folks, and then to hopefully get to know what everybody else is doing. What you might be doing with your ohana may inspire somebody else to do something. So hopefully we can get to a point where we can share virtually. Like Dr. Aukahi shared this morning, such a great keynote speaker. Okay, so let's get started. So aloha ho, my name is Kalaiku Wong. Luana already mentioned that I've been a preschool teacher and a program director, but really my love is for, or my passion is with early childhood education. I love working with little ones. Everything is brand new for them. You know, walking for the first time is brand new, putting shoes on for the first time is brand new. And the reason I think that I'm in early childhood education is because I like to see all of that newness and to allow children to practice that newness. You know, when life is so busy, a lot of times ohana don't have 10 minutes to allow a keiki to put on shoes. But what we can do at preschools is plan that into our routine, plan that into our day. The kids have an hour to play on the playground, so they can take 10 minutes to put on their shoes and to learn how to manipulate their fingers, learn how to manipulate their foot, and all of those things. And I love, love, love to see that happen for the keiki, and really for them to grow up to be independent children, independent adolescents, and then eventually independent adults. Today's session, Kanohana Ahupuaʻa, we're going to do a quick hoʻolauna of ourselves, as most of you did in the chat already. Then we're going to have a short conversation about Hawaiian culture-based education and what that is, what's it all about. Then I'm going to introduce, for us who may not know what an Ahupuaʻa is, we'll go through a short introduction of an Ahupuaʻa, and then take a look at some resources that maybe you can use in your classrooms or with your ohana. If we have time, then we can learn a mele about the Ahupuaʻa, and then that will be the end of our time. So the goals for today, a few goals that we have is to learn a simple introduction in Hawaiian, for all of us to identify our mokupuni, our moku, and Ahupuaʻa that we live in or that we might work in, to practice using Hawaiian culture-based education resources, and then to reflect on Hawaiian culture, on a Hawaiian culture-based lens. Okay. So let's begin with our ho'olauna. So here on the screen is a very short and simple ho'olauna that would take some time to go through. Really, it's an introduction of your name. So first we begin with a greeting. Yeah, traditionally, aloha. You might hear velina. Sometimes it's a longer introduction, a longer greeting. Traditionally, we like to make connections, right? We still do like to do that today. We always ask, what high school did you graduate from? When we hear somebody is from the same kaiolu or same community that we're in, we like to make connections that way. We might hear in ohana name, Ka'uwili, Wong, Punua, Pu'u, and then make a connection to a family member that we might know or a friend that we might know with the same name. So we'll start with the greeting of aloha, then your name, o blank ko'ui noa. So in there, you'll put your name. Again, because we like to make connections, your first name and then last name also helps for each other to make connections. Then next, we're going to introduce your place, your aina hanai, maybe your ore hanau. Where are you from? Or where do you live? No hea mai oi. So no blank mai yau. Hea ha'oi, what title are you coming with today? We all wear different hats. So are you here as a parent today in the Ohana Engagement Conference? Are you here as a kumu looking for resources? Are you here as a haumana? Are you just wanting to learn today? So what title are you giving yourself today in this presentation? Next, where do you work? We're a little bit curious. Where do you work, or what do you do? Hanau ma blank. I work at such and such a place. Hey blank a'u mau keiki. Do you have keiki? How many keiki do you have? So in there, you're just going to insert a simple number. He elua'u mau keiki, ho'okahi a'u keiki. How many keiki do you have? And then lastly, how are you feeling today? Okay, so blank au ike yala. How are you feeling? So as an example, okay. So as an example, aloha o Kalaiku ka'uwili Wong ko'ui noa no white anai o ahupuaʻa he makuahine au hanau mana kula kamali'i o Kamehameha he ho'okahi a'u keiki or ho'okahi a'u keiki and ha'aheo au ike yala. Mahalo. I'm proud to be here today with all of you. So I will put into the chat a link to a Padlet. And on the Padlet is this simple introduction. And then up here on the screen and also in the Padlet are some quick vocabulary for you. If you don't see your title here or you don't see the adjective that meets how you feel today, feel free to go on to wehewehe.org and look it up there. My chat's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the Padlet is in the chat, so please click on that link. It'll take you to the Padlet where you can introduce yourself and then take some time to read through everybody else's ho'olauna introduction as well. Okay, mahalo nui, lots coming in on the Padlet. Aloha nui yakakua pau from all over the Pai'aina this morning. Kohala, aloha ka aina.
Aloha kakahiaka kako from Kohala, Hawaii. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a great day. Happy Aloha Friday.
Mahalo ka aina. Aloha Maddie. Aloha Donna, aloha Doris. Aloha Kanaloa. Wendy, oh, plenty coming in. Aloha Justin. Amir, Laurie. So this Padlet is open. The template is there as well as the vocabulary. So if you want to copy and paste and save these things for you later on. Otherwise, the link will be open as long, I think, as Padlet is open. So feel free to come back to this at any time. If you've never used Padlet before, there is a free version and a paid version. This is on the free version. And it's a nice kind of, what do we call those bulletin boards that you might have in the office, that you can either allow people to participate in, or just set it up and then share with people. My Ohana uses this similar to Facebook, but we don't all have Facebook, so people kind of post their what's happening in their lives, post pictures and things like that on there, and then whenever we have time, we can go on and just see what everybody is doing. But I use this in my role as well to work with Kumu and with administrators. Sometimes we share templates like this and then everybody can practice. Other times we put information up and it's just kind of there, a free-for-all of resources and information. So if you never use Padlet, it's an interesting tool as we navigate this virtual world. So let me try this again to share my screen. Okay. There we go. Okay, so today we're talking about Hawaiian culture-based education. So mahalo for introducing yourselves. We see some Kumu in here. We see some Ohana members in here. So we're running the whole gamut this morning. Hawaiian culture-based education is the center we're talking about today. So before we get into a definition, I'd like you to share how you incorporate Hawaiian culture and knowledge with your own Ohana. So again, I'm going to put into a chat a link to a Jamboard, and I'll show us what that will look like. So when you click on the link, you'll go to a Jamboard like this. And what you're going to do is click on this note here, answer the question. You're putting your answer here. I'm just going to type in Halavina, hit save. And then when you go back to the screen, your sticky note will be right there. So similar to a Post-it. Take this out. So again, click this sticky note and then answer the question. What I'd like us to do is can you share with us how you incorporate Ike Hawaii, Olelo Hawaii, whatever it may be, with your own within your own Ohana? Or your classroom if you're here as a Kumu today. How do you incorporate Hawaiian knowledge, Hawaiian practices, Hawaiian language in your setting that you're in? Ohana have been doing this for years. Kumu have been doing this for years. But really what we see in schools, especially in early childhood, is there's not a ton of resources. Yeah, Ahupuaʻa Leo has a wealth of the universities have created some, Kamehameha has created some. But when we look at overall education and curriculum that's out there, there's not a ton, especially geared towards early childhood. So what do you do that maybe we can all learn from today? What might other people have? Hallelujah for your patience. Okay, so things coming in now. How are we using Hawaiian culture and knowledge, and how do you integrate that with your Ohana or your classrooms? We see pule, reading, sharing stories, occasional olelo, bits and pieces here and there, listening to Hawaiian music, songs, hymns in the car, looks like, on our car rides, teach sustainability and farming and fishing. We teach our keiki to lawai apono that was taught to us as keiki by our ohana. Family service projects, lots of doing things together as an ohana. It's the best way to teach anything, is to be immersed in it. So as young children, that's how they're going to learn. And they definitely notice a lot more when they're young, as opposed to being when they get older. We think about language and how easy or hard it is for us to learn language at an older age. For kids, they're just picking it up like that. And same thing with practices and with values. Culture-based activities. Mo'oku'auhau, Ha'awina time, or word of the week. Cultivating kalo and shaping papa and pohakui'ai. Using puke and mele. Counting in Hawaiian. Cultural values, traditions, mele, mo'olelo, and ha'awina. I teach ocean conservation and about native species, connection to place and living things. Lots and lots of things that we're doing with our own ohana that hopefully might inspire somebody else to do things that they might not be trying. Short, simple phrases and words on the wall in Olelo, Hawaii. It's a neat trick, putting words on the wall. We participate in cleaning our lo'i together as a big ohana and talk story at lunchtime. Talking story at a mealtime seems like it's an old practice, but it seems like a lot of us in Hawaii still practice that, don't we? I remember growing up, we used to talk all the time during mealtime, and we used to sit at the table too. As we got older, we kind of moved away from the table. We started not fitting on that one table, but it's definitely something that I remember, learned a lot. Especially a lot about each other. Food and cooking, yes, another great way to be immersed in a practice and learn at the same time. If you didn't have a chance to add your mana'o to this Jamboard, it'll be open, so feel free to add it later. And then also please go back to it. I hope that you'll visit it and read what other people have put on there. So again, we're talking about Hawaiian culture-based education. So mahalo for sharing what you already do with your own ohana. So as a definition, what is Hawaiian culture-based education? What it is it refers to the grounding of instruction and student learning in the values, norms, knowledge, belief, practices, experiences, places, and language that are the foundation of Native Hawaiians. So rather than teaching something in isolation, it means teaching and learning from or through Hawaiian culture as a foundation and perspective. So as an example, rather than just learning how to pull cattle safely and appropriately, it's learning through the whole practice. So similar to what Dr. Okahe shared this morning, what is at the heart of these practices or of the knowledge or of the values that make up who we are as a people? So thinking of, again, the values, norms, knowledge, beliefs, practices, experiences, places, and language. All of these things make up who a people is and who we are as Hawaiians, as Native Hawaiians. So just take a moment, seeing it laid out here for you on a wall. What might you put in values, norms, knowledge, beliefs? What you know of yourself, what you know of our kupuna, what you know living here, what might you put into these boxes here? So here's a quick kind of brainstorm that my team came up with. These are some values, norms. These are some things that make us who we are. And what Hawaiian culture-based education, what that definition means is that we're teaching through these things rather than teaching these things in isolation. So we take a look at Makahiki, for example. Rather than teaching or learning about Makahiki, about the practices that were done during the Makahiki season, rather than learning about what exactly, Makahiki looks like, it's learning and teaching through the Makahiki season. So if we get to the heart of Makahiki, what is at the heart of Makahiki? We know that it's a time period during the year. We know that it's in the winter months. Yeah, lots of rain, lots of wind, lots of growth happening on the Aina and in the sea because people didn't farm as much. We didn't fish out in the deep sea. Similar to bears who kind of take what they need and then hibernate, we prepared ourselves before this season so that we could give the Aina a time to rest. It was also a time for us to rest, right? We're traveling people. We're moving from one place to another place. As people like to conquer and expand their territory and that type of thing. During this season, we gave the Aina a break and we gave ourselves a break. Not so much rigorous work, a time for everything to rest and regenerate. As example, we take a look at pule. So rather than learning a specific pule in isolation, remembering and repeating the same pule over and over again. What is at the heart of the pule? What are we doing when we pule? Are we asking for something? Are we reflecting on how grateful we are and sharing that? Are we praising somebody or something? What are we doing at the heart of the pule? So it's taking a look at all of these different things that make up who we are, and rather than teaching them specifically or isolating them and making sure that we know X, Y, Z about the practices or the value or the norm, it's taking a look at what's at the heart of it and then incorporating that and using that as a lens for viewing everything around us. So what does that lens do? Yeah, so a lens like a camera or a lens like glasses is how we view the world or how we view situations. So for an example, what do you see here? So most of us may see a face or faces. And that makes a ton of sense because from infancy, we are trained to see faces. I'm so sorry. Exactly like what Dr. Okahi shared this morning. We've been in this for how long and I still cannot get my computer to cooperate. So some of us will see faces, and from infancy we're trained to see faces, to see eyes and mouths, because that's what we're looking for, right? As we're babies, we're looking for a makua, we're looking for validation, we're looking for something. So a lot of us will see faces, but if you're a horticulturalist or a botanist, or you love butterflies, or you love manu, you might see the flower and the leaves that are growing up towards the sky, the butterfly that's coming towards the flower. You might see birds and the baby birds who are in the puka in the tree, and the mama bird who's bringing food back home to her babies. As another example, using different lenses or different filters, one phenomena could look different to different people. I have a brother-in-law who's colorblind, so I have no idea how he physically views the world, not seeing color or only seeing some color or whatever it is. But what we do when we break down the culture, and not break it down, but when we view our culture in this way, or we teach our culture in this way, looking at the heart of it, teaching and incorporating that, is it creates a lens for us to view things, and then more especially for our keiki to view things, especially at a young age. So as a way of practice, we're going to take a look at some olelo no eau. And olelo no eau and mele and oli are great ways to look at or to view somebody's point of view or somebody's perspective, somebody's lens, because it uses imagery and metaphor and sometimes melody to immerse you in the entire experience rather than counting on one avenue to introduce that. So, akame olau no'eau, a'ohe paukaʻike ka halau ho'okahi. Simple translation is all knowledge is not taught in the same school. So what might we learn from this olelo no'eau that is not isolating, a halau, it's not isolating ike or knowledge, but what might we take from this? What is at the heart of this olelo no'eau that is a way that we can learn or a way that we can teach or a way that we can view the world that's around us? We might have different interpretations. One might be that one can learn from many sources. Yeah, all knowledge is not taught in the same school. There's plenty schools, so I can learn from all of these different schools. So one can learn from many different resources. Let's take a look at another olelo no'eau. Ue kalani ola kohonua, which means when the sky weeps, the earth lives. Yeah, so what can we glean from this olelo no'eau that informs us of who we are as a people, how we view our world, how we might view our situations that we're in? One interpretation might be that when it rains, the earth revives. Another interpretation might be that when things feel heavy, as the rain does, there's life when you come out of that. Yeah, COVID is happening right now, but what were some positive things about COVID? Yeah, didn't feel that great, but we did get to stay home for a long time with Ohana. A lot of people have practiced eating meals together again. One more olelo no'eau, let's take a look. E opuali'i, have the heart of a chief. So how might this olelo no'eau inform us or encourage us to view or look at our world and our situation? One might be to have kindness, generosity, and even temperedness of a chief. Another way to look at it is through the chiefs. Were all of the chiefs that we know of, were they all kind, generous, and even tempered? Nope. Yeah, some chiefs were not like that. But what happened to those chiefs? We think of, Ka'aina, the chiefs, some chiefs in Kohala. What happened to those chiefs? The people overthrew them, right? So that might give us a little bit more perspective on this. O Puali'i, have the heart of a chief. What kind of chiefs were prized? Yeah, maybe these ones who had kindness, generosity, and an even temper, like perhaps Maili Kukahi. And the ones who didn't act like that were out of there. Yeah, the people didn't stand for it. Let's get rid of that guy. So when we're feeling those kinds of things, if we feel like this is not Opuali'i, I'm feeling this type of way, we can look back at Mo'olelo and think, when our kupuna saw people like this, they were out of here. Maybe I need to put this to the side. Maybe I need to get rid of this and go more towards this way. So that's just a quick practice. Olelo no'eau, again, mele, oli are great ways to be immersed in a perspective or in a lens. So the Ahupuaʻa, today I'm going to share some resources that were created, especially for young children and ohana, based around the Ahupuaʻa. So first, let's take a look at what an Ahupuaʻa is. So we live on Mokupuni. Yeah, this is Oahu. And all of our island are Mokupuni. Moku is a land mass, and puni is around. So it's a land mass surrounded by kai, or surrounded by water. That's a mokupuni. Our pai'aina is 8 mokupuni, or 8 major mokupuni. Hawaii, Lanai, Kaho'olawe, Maui, Molokai, Oahu, Kauai, and Ni'ihau. And all of these mokupuni, 8 mokupuni, make up a pai'aina, or an archipelago. All of our mokupuni were and still are divided, or how we as Kanakas are, were divided into moku. So Oahu has 6 moku. In a little bit, I'm going to share some resources so you can take a look at your own mokupuni and see how many moku you have. And within each moku, there were divided up Ahupuaʻa. And Ahupuaʻa were smaller land divisions that contained within them all the resources that the inhabitants needed to live and to thrive. So most Ahupuaʻa stretched from Mauka all the way into the Kai. Most Ahupuaʻa, but not all. But what all Ahupuaʻa did have was enough resources for the inhabitants to live and to survive, or at least that's how they were created. Lots of mo'olelo where Ahupuaʻa were not able to sustain people, so people had to move, or things had to change in the Ahupuaʻa. But for the most part, Ahupuaʻa were divided so that people had everything that they needed to live. Okay, so you would have medicine, food, lots of different things that grew in the cooler region in the middle, different things like fresh water, bigger trees, wood would be growing in the upper regions. Makai near the shoreline, different resources there, a little bit drier than it is in Kula and Mauka. And then in the Kai is the ice box, fresh food all year long. Now we still see the Ahupuaʻa divisions. Recently, they've been added to our roadways. So on Oahu, you'll see the brown signs. In Hilo and Maui, or Kalamai, Hawaii and Maui look a little different. But recently, we've started putting up signs so that we can start recognizing where Ahupuaʻa are and what Ahupuaʻa you might be driving through as you travel from one side of the island to the other. So Nohea mai oi, where are you from? I'd like to learn today where you're from. In a minute, I'm going to put into the chat this link to maps similar to the one that I shared. And then the second link will be this Menti word cloud. I'd like you to put in there your moku and your Ahupuaʻa that you are from. And folks chiming in. Lots from Kona this morning. And Waianae, a few from Waianae, Ko'olaupoko, Kane'ohe. Oh, Waianae coming in stronger now. Ho'olehua from Manana, Pro City. Wailua, Kauai, aloha. Maunalua, Honouliuli, Keone Poko. Aloha e Kauaiakea. Kamoku o Kona. Aloha e Kauaimea. Kapahulu. Palolo, aloha nui kako. If you've never used Mentimeter, Mentimeter is also a free online tool that you can use and make fun word clouds like this. After it's done, you can print it out, and it's a fun art project you might, or not art project, but wall art that you might want to hang. Oh, lots from Hilo. Kaneohe coming in strong too. Alohe ko waiakea ko olauloa. Okay, mahalo nui. Participating in that. Okay, so some resources that I want to share with you today. Nohona Ahupuaʻa is a online tool that you can use in your classroom, you can use with your ohana, you can use for yourself. And this was created about almost 7 years ago, maybe 10 by now. And what it did was take the Ahupuaʻa poster that a lot of us are used to, and what Anakala Kaipo, who first came up with the idea, that Ahupuaʻa poster has been sitting around in classrooms for years. If you're in a classroom setting, you've probably seen it or you use it all the time. So it was hanging on his wall too, and he was looking at it, kind of getting lost in the imagery of people surfing, people sledding down slopes, people doing all different kinds of things in the Ahupuaʻa. And he started just writing notes, how he could use this to teach other people, or how he can use this simple poster and expand on that. So he has started having post-its all over the place. And what he did with his post-its is he went to, check out the different resources that Kamehameha has with online tools and things. And what they did with those post-its is they put it online for other people to learn from. So that was just kind of a funny story of how it was created, and then how it's kind of used as well. So I'll demonstrate it here for us. And you'll have the link to this as well. But when you get to the home screen, it looks like this. So it'll look like this. So you can click on this intro and hear Anakala Kaipo talk about Ahupuaʻa and introduce the Ahupuaʻa. Otherwise, on the bottom, you'll see there are 4 different regions of the Ahupuaʻa. Here they titled them Uka, up in the mountains, Kula, kind of the mid-region where a lot of activity happened, Makai, meaning the shore or near to the kai, but not exactly kai yet, and then Kai, meaning out into the sea. So you can click on any of those 4 regions to view, to get a closer look at them, or you can click on the overview map that's at the corner. So I'll click on the overview map, and then here are the 4 regions again. You can click on any of the regions, and then it'll take you to that region. So you can get there to the overview map or through the tabs here. So I'm going to click on Uka just to give us another perspective. And then once you're here on this screen, you can click multiple places on the page. So wherever your mouse will turn into a hand, that pointing hand, you can click on it.
Here we see members of a family or ohana carry food and resources from the lowland and kai areas. They are bringing these things to the kahuna la'au lapa'au, or medical healer, to say thank you for taking good care of one of their family members and to show their aloha as well.
So you can click anywhere on the map, and some will have narration, others will have other places that you can click on for songs.
Here we see young chiefs practicing the sport of sledding, or he'eholua. Look at the size of the sliding area. Look at their long and narrow wooden sleds, too. See how they race downhill on the sleds. They are training themselves to be the best in this sport and will probably challenge others later on. Sure looks like a fun activity to do, don't you think?
So next to this picture is a picture of what you might do with a Hawana or with your ohana to mimic the activity that's shown on the screen. So you might find a hill, and maybe you don't have a he'eholua, as most of us don't, but we have cardboard boxes. Or maybe you can find tea leaf somewhere that's big enough to sit on and try sledding down the hill and racing down the hill. This one also includes a mele, a short mele. I'll play that for us too.
He'eholua, he'eholua. He'eholua, he'eholua, leka papa holua. He'eholua, he'eholua, leka papa holua. Leka papa holua. Let's go sledding with the narrow wooden sled. Let's go sledding with the narrow wooden sled. With the narrow wooden sled. Makahua, makahua, neka papa holua. Makahua, makahua, neka papa holua. Neka papa holua. On the slide, with the narrow wooden sled. On the slide, with the narrow wooden sled. With the narrow wooden sled. He'eholua, he'eholua, luika le'a le'a. He'eholua, he'eholua, luika le'a le'a. Luika le'a le'a. Let's go sledding, it's a lot of joyous fun. Let's go sledding, it's a lot of joyous fun. It's a lot of joyous fun. It's a lot of joyous fun.
So as one example, and then you click out, and then you can click on other places in the Ahupuaʻa. Up here on the top is a teacher guide. So you might want to preview this if you're taking this to your classroom or before you introduce it to your child, your keiki. This guide will circle for you all the different touch points or click points that you can click on. So you know and can be prepared for questions they might have or anticipate other activities that you might include. So when they come off of this, to encourage them to learn more about these different things. Next to the teacher guide is an introduction. Again, that was Ana Kalaiku who was singing, and he'll do an introduction of the entire region. And then this button to go back to home. So same thing in every region that you go to. You can click on different things, learn a little bit about them, and then some of them are accompanied by music. All of the language is very simple. This was created for preschoolers. So the language is simple. The mele are simple. He'll sing in Hawaiian and then translate it in English and then sing it again in Hawaiian and then in English, and very repetitive. So lots of things can happen. Or you can use this tool for lots of different things. We'd love to hear later on how you're inspired to use this in your classroom or with your ohana. So again, this was created about 7 years ago. And so what we did recently, just last year, was to encourage our kumu to continue to use the resource. We started to compile mo'olelo. And so these mo'olelo will be shared with you as well. This one is not as interactive as the map, but it can aid as you teach about Ahupuaʻa, and whether you're teaching about Ahupuaʻa as a system, or you're teaching keiki, or you're wanting them to learn about a specific Ahupuaʻa where they are. We've just compiled a number of different mo'olelo that we found. So we have contemporary mo'olelo, and then we have collected also traditional mo'olelo. And this is just a PDF document with a live link here to either a Google Doc or a PDF or a video of the mo'olelo. So all the way on the left will be the title of the mo'olelo and the author of the mo'olelo. Then the format in which the mo'olelo is presented, a short synopsis of the mo'olelo, and then just some notes on what the mo'olelo, or characters in the mo'olelo, or themes in the mo'olelo, ways that you may be able to make connections to either your classroom or to your ohana. So for instance, this first mo'olelo is about Mo'ikeha and his journey to Kauai, and then his son Kila going back to Kahiki to bring Aku and Opelu back for Mo'ikeha. So if you're learning about Mo'ikeha, this is a great story for you, a great starting point for you. But maybe you're just learning about fish in general, or you're teaching your haumana or your keiki about fish, or you guys are going fishing and you want a mo'olelo about fish. So all of those different themes we try to pull out here on the side, so that you can helps you identify mo'olelo. What we also try to do in this section is to put landmarks. So if you're studying a specific aina or mokupuni, that should be there. One way to use this tool, if you're not printing it and you're using it on the computer, is to find it or search a specific mo'olelo. So if you're learning about fish or you're going fishing, you can Command F, and then you get that little search button, and then type in there what you're learning about, and then it'll be highlighted for you in the PDF, and that's one way that you can identify the mo'olelo. Otherwise, all the different formats are here in the second column. So if you're looking for something to put on for your keiki to watch, you can easily click on a video. All of the mo'olelo here, all of the videos are either read alouds, or people have acted them out, or they have created the video or the cartoon. A lot of it is from OEV TV, so we mahalo OEV TV. Others from Kamehameha schools, the read alouds and things. Others from Ahupuaʻa Leo. So those are all the videos are ready to go for your keiki. The Google Docs and the PDF versions are not necessarily ready to go right in front of keiki. So those you may want to take a look at, and then you may need to reword it maybe so that it's in more kid-friendly language. You may need to add art to it and things like that. We haven't gone that far yet to develop these mo'olelo. But what we did do for our kumu is just to collect them so that they have a library of mo'olelo. So again, you'll receive this as well. And hopefully this is something that you can use with your ohana in your classrooms. So again, we're going to share this this entire folder with you. And it's a resource, it's just titled resources. So here will be a table of contents for traditional mo'olelo, a table of contents for contemporary mo'olelo, and then all the Google Doc files will be there. You're actually going to get this whole thing. So the Ahupuaʻa maps, the mo'olelo, and then the mele. So the mele that are in the Ahupuaʻa, this online tool, all of the mele, like the He'eholua one that we listened to, this puke will give you all of the lyrics, and some have chords to them as well. So you can play them for your haumana or your keiki. Okay, so before we move on, Are there any questions on the resources or anything that we talked about so far? So feel free to unmute if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat. I have my chat open now.
Kalaiku, there's a couple in the chat.
Okay. So are there different versions for older Haumana? Is that for the online site? It's just the one site that was created. Again, specifically for preschoolers. But if Haumana, these are older Haumana who are not ma'a to the language, then it may be appropriate for them too, because there's a lot of language added in there, but it's just the one tool that was created. And similar for the mo'olelo, what we did was just to compile mo'olelo. And we compiled them looking for mo'olelo that are appropriate for early childhood education, so for preschool, toddler, that age group. So we weren't looking for long tails, but like I mentioned, the mo'olelo are not necessarily written for early childhood education, so they may work for older Haumana as well. So are there copyrights on the resources or okay to use outside of Kamehameha schools? Work for a nonprofit and would love to use this to share with students and visitors to our center. Rehabilitation, we're developing Ahupuaʻa exhibit to teach about land use. Yes, absolutely. There's no copyright. I'm sorry. The mo'olelo have all been sourced. So all the mo'olelo in those table of contents have the sources linked to them. So if it's a mo'olelo that we pulled out of a book, the sources are there. All the videos, the link is directly to their site or where their videos are housed. So that one, those resources are sourced appropriately. And then the Ahupuaʻa site tool was created for the community as well. So geared towards early childhood education and meant for our preschools, but is available and open for anybody to use. So please feel free to use it. Okay, I don't, Humuluana or Moani, I don't see any more questions. I'm trying to scroll, so if you have some, please feel free to share.
I think there's one, I'm not sure, you might have covered it already. It said, oh, Ekalamai, wait, where was it? Ekalamai, can you show how to get to this mo'olelo table one more time?
So everybody will get access. I will share the link at the end. Everybody will get access to this folder. This Nohona Ahupuaʻa folder. And in there are resources. And all the maps are in here for you to use. The mele are here. And then this mo'olelo folder will have the PDF for contemporary mo'olelo and then traditional mo'olelo. And how we separated those were traditional mo'olelo, our mo'olelo about our ali'i or kupuna, kupua, demigods, our akua, those kinds of things. And then these more contemporary ones are mostly fiction, but may not necessarily be fiction, but written in Hawaii, where Hawaii is the center or the setting of the tale, or as a mo'olelo about Hawaii. But a contemporary mo'olelo. So like, what is this first one? Oh, this one. Aya ka'alakeka ma kaipapa'u. is there an alligator at Kaipapa'u? And this is a story written by Kekula Kaipunio Hau'ula, where they go to a beach and there's a log there that looks like an alligator. So they're telling their tale, but it's a contemporary mo'olelo that they tell rather than a traditional one. So that's the difference between these two table of contents. I'll keep those. Okay, so I want to take some time to share a mele, one of the mele that you'll hear on the tour. It's actually the first mele, Nohona Ahupuaʻa, that kind of encapsulates the whole Ahupuaʻa. So we do have some time to learn this mele and then a hula that was choreographed for it. So very simple language, from the mountains to the sea. Yeah, kind of drawing a picture of that Ahupuaʻa. From the mountains to the sea, let us live in harmony. Okay? And so the lesson that most of our kumu teach the haumana is that to live together, in a ohana, we live together in our family. We all live in the same house, and it takes all of us having a good mindset, being calm with each other, having patience with each other to get things done or to have a good day. When one person's not having a good day and they're letting everybody know that affects everybody else. So in the Ahupuaʻa is similar, not only in one house, but in the entire Ahupuaʻa, where people are counting on resources from uka, resources from the kai. We're having to work together so that we can live. People who live near the ocean want kalo that grows up in the uplands. And people in the uplands might get tired of eating kalo and uala all the time. So they want fish. So we need to be able to work together so that we can enjoy life and live in harmony. So from the mountains to the sea, let us live in harmony. In Hawaiian, mai kauka ake kai e noho lo kahi pu kako. Second verse, from the mountains to the sea, let us work in harmony. So not just living in harmony, but working together, working in harmony. Mai kauka ake kai e hana lo kahi pu kako. And then the chorus is Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Kuponono. So a good way to live is this setup that they had in the Ahupuaʻa. So real quickly, we can learn the motions and then I'll play the song and we can all hula together. So let me move myself back. So from the mountains to the sea. I'll get comfortable using our hands. Yeah, simple hula that you can teach your haumana, teach your keiki. From the mountains to the sea. So we're going to make mountains. So starting in front of you, mountains all the way up at the top. Yeah, all the way up at the top are the mountains. All the way to the sea, we're going to bring one hand down and make a sea. Yeah. Oceans moving, oceans waving in the sea. So starting again in front of you, from the mountain, bring your kids all the way up to the mountain and then come down to the sea. Let us live in harmony. So hands at your umama, hands at your chest. Let us live. And then harmony, we're going to encircle everything around us. Yeah, we know that nature lives in harmony because that's the only way that things can live out there. It's us who kind of have a hard time living in harmony sometimes, but nature reminds us of how harmonious things can be and how great it works if we live like that. So again, from the mountains up, come down to the sea. Let us live in harmony. Okay. And then our chorus is Kanohona Ahupuaʻa. So hands at your chest, and we're just gonna remember how good we feel when things are in harmony. So Kanohona, and then we're gonna outline the Ahupuaʻa. Ahupuaʻa. ka Nohona Ahupuaʻa. And then a third time, ka Nohona Ahupuaʻa. Okay. And then ka Nohona Kupono no means that it's a nohona, it's a way of life that is kupono. Yeah, that is good, that is harmonious, that is upright. So we're going to take our two hands from our na'au, I don't know if you can see, from our na'au, and just come all the way up above your head. Ka Nohona Kupono no. So kind of outlining that uprightness. Yeah. How upright, how good you might feel. Ka Nohona Kupono no. Then second verse is from the mountain to the sea. So we're going to do the same thing. Hands in the front starting, go up to the mountains, come down to the sea, from the mountains to the sea. Let us work in harmony. So two hands, and when we're working, our hands are face down because we're grabbing things, right? We're typing, we're using tools. So hands down, and then we're gonna close them like we're grasping something, cross them, and then open them back up. Yeah, while you're working, your hands are moving all over the place. So that's our motion for let us work in harmony. So from the mountains to the sea, let us work in harmony. From the mountains to the sea, let us work in harmony. And the same thing in Hawaiian. And then our chorus, ka Nohona Ahupuaʻa. That's it. Okay, you ready to practice? Share video and then practice. So you have access to this video as well. That has the mele, and then you can practice along maybe before you get in front of your keiki, so you feel all confident in what you're doing. Here we go. Oh, wait. Can you hear that?
Kalamai kalaiku, no more sound.
No more sound. Okay, let me try again.
If you click the, I can't do it, the speaker on the bottom of the video.
I think if you hover your, over it, it should populate for you.
Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. Okay. From the mountains.
From the mountains to the sea, let us live in harmony. From the mountains to the sea, let us live in harmony. My kauka akekai, e noho kahiku kako. My kauka akekai, e noho kahiku kako. Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Kupono no. Second verse, from the mountains to the sea, let us work in harmony. Beautiful. From the mountains to the sea, let us work in harmony. My kauka akekai, e hana o kahiku kako. My kauka akekai, e hana o kahiku kako. Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Kupono no. Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Ahupuaʻa, Kanohona Kupono no. Kanohona Kupono Thank you, Clarissa.
Okay, Monica, it was nice to see everybody joining along. Mahalo. So simple hula that can accompany that might be fun for your haumana or your keiki to do. Always a nice way when we're learning about something to introduce it in multiple ways, right? So that keiki are remembering what they're learning. They have a chance to reflect on it and practice it in different ways. So that is just one. So again, you'll have this video. You'll also have this book that includes all the lyrics to the mele that you'll find on the online tool as you're clicking around in there. Okay. And with that, so that is the end of the resources that I wanted to share. So the rest of our time is just talking story kind of time. That was kind of a lot of information from Hawaiian culture-based education to different resources that we might use. But really, it's just a collection of things that that other people have been using, and that's pretty much what we do in our preschools too, right? We're learning from each other, we're learning with each other. So I wanted to open up the rest of our time for you to unmute your mic, to share, to ask, and dialogue about what we're doing in our ohana, what we're doing in our classrooms, what resources you might need. You know, Kamehameha has lots of resources. And a lot of what we do at Kamehameha is to create and pilot at our schools and then to share out in the community. So what needs might you have that I can take back to our hui that can help inform the next projects that we do? So please feel free to unmute yourself and share.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha e Kalaiku.
Aloha.
Oi Watson ko uinoa he kumokoko au ma keiki steps in peace program. Been in education for some 20 plus years and have recognized a lot of the resources that Kamehameha Schools has produced over the years. So stoked that I actually get to have them in my hands now that I can use to share with our keiki. I work in Ahupuaʻa Waiʻanai, the moku Waiʻanai ka Ahupuaʻa o Nana Kuli. That is the ainahana of my makua. So it's nice to be able to get resources that, you know, we try to make do, with the resources that we have on hand. But visuals is always great, and sound, motion when trying to implement any lesson in our curriculum. And Ahupuaʻa is definitely one that's ingrained in our program when teaching our keiki about where they're from. So mahalo nui for all your sharing. One thing I wanted to share that I'm sure anyone in this field knows already, that it's music and mele and any sound, even if it's two pencils tapping together, it excites keiki. So that is one thing. If you have something to teach, even if it's a simple word and you take the ka or the syllables, use a kani of some kind. And that will definitely draw the keiki in, and they'll want to learn it because there's a sound to it. And it's just something that I've learned over the years that I wanted to ka'analike share with you all. Mahalo nui.
Can I
Mahalo,
share?
Mary. Hi, aloha.
Aloha, I'm Nani Kava'a. I'm from Molokai. I'm a special education teacher at Molokai High School. I have two groups of SPED students. One is the severely handicapped, and they enjoy this kind of stuff. It's their level, and I usually take it a little higher. So if you can give some feedback, also, if we can have, I also use this in my classroom with the other kids that have other kinds of disabilities, like learning disabilities. A lot of our I have all boys, I only have one girl in my classes. I teach 7 classes, 6 of them, all boys. Okay, one girl. And they're hunters, they're fishermen. And I'm using the Ahupuaʻa as a basis for sustainability. how it was back then. Why is it not like that? And if we can somehow move it from into sustainability today to take that notion, we cannot hunt and fish if we don't take care malama da aina. You don't, when you go up in the forest, are you taking care of that part of the Ahupuaʻa? You know, kind of like that. We can kind of move it so that this concept can be applied and not just be for the younger students, but we can even take it up. Yeah. So I think that would be my suggestion and what I would want to work with my kids, and they love it. Right now, I'm having them, I'm going to have them go hunt. Okay, you guys go deer hunting, bring in from the Ahupuaʻa you got from the Mauka. Okay, you're going to show us how to prepare. And they're going to actually do that. And we're going to have whatever, and I've got them divided into sections. So if this is if you're the sea, bring some fish or whatever. Teach us how to prepare fish or other things. If you're from this part of the Aina, if it's weaving or whatever, let's do some in our classroom that'll help me, but then tie it back to sustainability. And yeah, especially here in Hawaii, we need that mentality instead of depending so much on getting our food sources from outside. Yeah, let's take care of our Ahupuaʻa. And then another thing, if we could tie that in somehow, besides Ahupuaʻa, into how did tie into modern Hawaiian history. And there's a lot of knowledge that we're finding, dispelling all the myths that we've been perpetuating in our history books. That's not true, but also take it to how can we tie the Ahupuaʻa concept into modern Hawaiian history? How did it get that way? You know, kind of like the fall from how we used to be. And then the best thing is the revival, you know, and then the Renaissance came and all this to bring back what we're enjoying now is the labors of those that fought for the restoration of how things used to be. And that can be the same concept with the Ahupuaʻa. If we know what it was like, and then the fall, but then we can bring it back. And if we look at all the projects that people are doing nowadays, restoring all the fish ponds, restoring all the different kinds of things, even putting the signs up, I think that's a good idea. And getting familiar with the Ahupuaʻas on Oahu, I think that's wonderful. So that mindset centered around Ahupuaʻa, yeah. That's my manao, my whatever I want, my request.
Mahalo nui for sharing. As you were talking, a question came in. Is it possible to bring back the Ahupuaʻa system? And if so, what would be the steps to accomplish this? Or is it just an educational resource? Similar to what you were already talking about, but I mean, maybe it's a point of discussion for us here. Yeah, can we even do that? How do we do that?
Yeah, we brought back wayfinding, right? When there were no navigators in Hawaii, we went back and now we have navigators. So why not? And it's not about restoring totally some things. We cannot totally go back to the past, but we can look at the richness of the past and how can we, and we might have to modify our version of the past, just like we have to modify our navigation by going outside of Hawaii to find somebody who can teach us the skills and bring it back so that it lives. So I think the concept is sustainability. Yeah, sustainability and that cooperation of working together. We can bring that back as we're building our nation.
Mahalo nui. Any other manao on Ahupuaʻa and what might be some steps that we can take to bring that system back?
Aloha no kako, aloha ho, aloha ho. So I guess I'd like to also tap onto Auntie, but then also do a leo kako of support for the Nohona Ahupuaʻa program. As a person who has heavily used it in our classroom, one of the things I also found too, it helped with our keiki becoming school ready from preschool to going into the other school systems. Obviously, we've all been through a pandemic and our approach to teaching and the way our keiki are learning we had to curve that, and we had to make it kind of electronic and portable. What was great about this Ahupuaʻa was turning the link into a clickable app thing on top of their iPads that were issued to them, where they could actually take it and then explore with it by themselves. And then with that, the keiki who weren't so technologically advanced already were watching and then mirroring their actions. But what is great, I think one of the highlights of Kanohona Ahupuaʻa is the voice of Uncle Kaipo Noheahale and all of his songs. His voice is very easy to listen to, and I think a lot of our younger keiki and even adults, we like to be talked to like very kindly and very nicely. We don't like to be nukud. And it has that voice, it has all those songs, and our keiki here, and I can attest here at our preschool that the songs will end up giving you nightmares in your sleep, because all of a sudden you could be doing just the randomest things, and it's from the mountain to the sea, and our keiki will instantly pick it up, and it could be in the middle of chewing for snack or something, and the motions start coming out. And when they have the visual to it, to be able to verbalize it by hearing it and then making actions with their hands, it solidifies all of that knowledge more. It makes it more pa'a, and because they're more ma'a to hearing it and doing it. And I also really appreciate how Auntie mentioned that, yes, before we didn't have wayfinding was something in a mo'olelo. Now it's something that is a practice. And with our keiki being exposed and given this kinds of resources, who knows what they can do with it in the next 30 to 40 years. We give all this information to keiki so that they take it and they run with it. And I'm excited to see how this will progress more. So mahalo Kalaiku, mahalo everyone here for sharing this, because this is a very valid resource, especially with keiki who have very hard time listening, very hard time trying to hone in all of their awesomeness. This is one way to give them a time where they can hone in their awesomeness, but also be enriched with very great ike. So I just wanted to give like a testimonial to anybody who's kind of just like, wait, how is it? Like, it seems like it's age appropriate for high schoolers or it's age appropriate for middle schoolers, but I must say it's age appropriate all around. Although the keiki in my classroom cannot read all the words, they can at least identify the letters, but they know the icons to press to be told what it was. And another mahalo real fast to our ASL interpreter. I really love that we are at a time where we are engaging all ohana, even those who can't, maybe no more use of the pepeao and stuff, but we're adamantly going out and doing that. Oh, chicken skins all around. So have a great day, everybody, but mahalo for sharing.
Totally agree, Ka'aina. Mahalo nui for sharing. Sarah, do you have something you wanted to add to that?
Well, I was just wanting to share, piggyback on the sharing about sustainability, because I chose this Ahupuaʻa idea as our year-long student learner goal for the Nakula Kamali'i classroom in Kohala, and just focusing on this idea of if we all work together, the cooperation and collaboration and lokahi, then we have what we need and we can take care of each other. So I'm hoping to convey that to these 3 to 5-year-olds through the use of the Ahupuaʻa curriculum. And it's been really a fun journey so far, even though we just started. I at first was really feeling like, wow, this is a really big idea. How am I gonna get it down to their level? But just this past week, we have a macadamia nut tree in our yard, and one of the keiki noticed that there was a lot of sap on it and that there was a crack, and there were little ants crawling out of the branch, and they came and showed my co-worker and co-teacher the crack, and we're like, look, Kumula, what's going on? And so we saw that there was ants in there and the branch needed to come off. So we pulled the branch off, and Kumulori pulled it and sawed it, and the whole branch came down, and all of a sudden we had all these macadamia nuts, and the keiki were like putting them in their shirts, and they had so many because they love to collect them. And I was like, aha, here's my chance. So instead of letting everybody just take home all these green macadamia nuts that I know are just gonna like stay in their backpack probably, I was like, hey, what if we put them all together? Like, we just found these in our ahupuaʻa of our school, and luckily our driveway is even like a hill, so it's kind of that same geographical like idea. There's up higher and down lower. But anyway, we collected all the nuts and we put them in a box, and we counted them. We took the shells off. One keiki said, hey, we should find out if they sink or if they float. Like, remember how we made those boats last year? Because we made little so it just stimulated like a whole lot of conversation. And we're at the point where this next week they decided we should share them, and everyone should get to crack their own and eat them. So that's what we're gonna do next week, is pass them out so everybody has some. But I'm realizing that I love this interactive app. Like, I need to get on there and really start using a bit. And I also love just the way that once you put something in your mind, the learning opportunities kind of start to present themselves more and more. So that's sustainability and lokahi just at the preschool level. But
Mahalo, Sarah, for sharing. And that's an example of that lens that you're now looking through. You created that goal of sustainability, Ahupuaʻa, and sustainability for your year-long plan, and that's now the lens that you're looking at everything in. So a crack in the tree leads to how can we use these nuts that are falling, and we'll just sit there or end up in somebody's backpack. But automatically, that's a way that you can not only teach sustainability, but that you're already viewing how can we make this useful instead of letting it just be wasted. Mahalo nui for sharing. There's a question in the chat about the app. Was created through Kamehameha School. So Anakala Kaipo and Aloha e Ululani. So Anakala Kaipo, who is the voice and creator really of this idea for creating the app, was working with Nakula Kamali'i before I came into this position, and he created the app for the preschools, but really to share with the community. Also in the chat, I'm not sure if everybody saw it, but if you're a middle school and high school teacher, somebody shared, I think it's Camille who shared that the latest version of the Value of Hawaii has some good essays that might be appropriate for older haumana about ways to modernize the Ahupuaʻa system. And then also Wendy shared that using this as an example, using the app as an example of self-sustaining communities who cultivated resources without destroying the aina, that would be a great connector for middle through high school students, also emphasizing ways students can take action and become stewards within parts of the Ahupuaʻa. Community-based work, which I know many organizations are doing well already, we need to tie it all together. So maybe the app becomes a springboard for those older haumana to make connections. Halo nui. Any other mana'o about the app or things that you're doing in your school with your ohana that you want to share?
Aloha. Okay, from Hamakua Hikina. I am a youth mentorship program coordinator for Hui Mau, and we are embarking on broadening the Ahupuaʻa systems, and I'm just loving this today. Mahalo. Some of the things that we've done is learn about the mai'a, planting them, watching them grow, and not only eat the fruit, but use the pumai'a to aho to make strings with them, and learn how to give back to the aina. And when I watch the keiki, and they're from first grade up through high school, it didn't matter on the age. They were very much pa. And they helped, the bigger ones helped the babies, and the babies had so many questions that piqued the interest of the older ones. And it's just a beautiful harmony to see the keiki on the aina and working together that way. And you know, you don't need money really to go and do these things, but it brings joy to them. And so it's something that you might want to think of if you have a little mala that you can take them in or create. We are fortunate to have a few that we can go to. So especially now with them being on the computers all day, outdoors is where they want to be. Mahalo for this time.
Mahalo nui. Any other mana'o? Great
Aloha.
conversation. Aloha.
So I wanted to just, sorry. Aloha mai, I'm Aina Dudua. I am from Hilo, but I'm currently in Oahu, and I am the residence coordinator for Nohona. It's a program under Hawaii. But throughout the year, we kind of been working with students across the Pai'aina. And we've kind of just been doing like online sessions, I guess you can call them. They're not really like educational. I mean, they are, but they're not like class. And I don't know if you guys saw in the program, but my bosses are actually doing a workshop right now on the way that we're utilizing this virtual type of educating in the now, right? But my thing is, when you asked about what kind of things can you guys provide for us, I noticed throughout my preparing of lesson plans throughout the year, there aren't really a lot of online resources for us as Kumu, and especially now because of COVID and all the issues of, you know, gathering and that type of situation. It's kind of hard to get to the libraries or like get that really like hard copy of the information. And I was wondering if there was, I mean, I know there are a lot of resources out there online, but I feel like there isn't enough about like culture-based education for us as Hawaiians. Like there's a lot of resources out there for any type of subject, but I feel like for us as Hawaiians, we kind of don't have that resource to kind of like how you were sharing the resources for Nohona Ahupuaʻa. Is it possible for us to put more of our mana'o online so that we can share as a collective, as educators, that we can all share our lesson plans or stuff like that? I feel like there aren't really a lot of resources, and I know Kamehameha has some out there, but I feel like it's kind of not enough. I feel like I'm always short of mana'o or sources to pull from when I'm creating lesson plans. And I feel like that's a good thing to strengthen upon, especially now that we're trying to, you know, navigate through this whole virtual type of educating. So that's kind of a mana'o that I would love to see out there, is a little bit more resources for native-based education, and especially there are a few tools that you introduced in this workshop that I didn't know about, that I'm so happy to know, because I will definitely be making use of those. So that's other things that I would love to see out there, like Padlet. I heard about, we just learned about Jamboard, so that's awesome as well. But if possible, you know, just to broaden our resources on the virtual level, that would be awesome to see. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed this workshop, because it's nice to see how we are all transitioning into this new period of education. So mahalo nui for all of that mana'o from all the sharers that have shared today, and mahalo nui to you La'iku, Kalaiku. That was amazing. But that's all.
Mahalo nui,
Mahalo.
Aina. And Aina, are you familiar with Waihona? Waihona.net?
I am sort of like I touched upon it like with like super short like Googling like loco ia. So kind of, but I haven't really had a chance to explore Waihona yet. But yeah, I did hear of that.
So it's a lot. I just put the link into the chat, and you have to register, but everything is completely free. But it's I think it's along the lines that you're thinking of, where we're all in our own spaces, in our own schools, our own organizations, and we're all creating these things. And it's a place where we can all share those things. So it's huge. Lots of people from lots of different organizations are contributing to Waihona, and so it takes some time to go through and to find things, find things that you need or that would be appropriate to you. But it's kind of like how I think of Ross. Like I kind of go into Ross and then find exactly what I need. I kind of go in there thinking I'm going to find a white dress that looks like this, and this. Kind of go into Ross when I have plenty time, and then you just go through and browse. So that's kind of how I use Waihona right now. Because it's not that easy to just find, lokoia or, kalo, that kind of a thing. But they're working on it. It's a great resource, and they continuously update it. And the more you use it, the more ma'a you become. But they're always asking for feedback. So I think while we were in this presentation, they were doing another presentation. So actually, that'll probably be in the videos that we can all go back in and watch all the sessions that we didn't get to see. But Waihona, yeah. And then Kanaio Kana, have you heard of Kanaio Kana too?
Yes, actually, yeah. I've been pulling from them as well.
Yeah. So they're definitely a great resource, but also a great hui to join and contribute. So they are they partner with different organizations, but they also try to bring together different organizations who can help each other and help to leverage certain things. So say, I have maybe the tech resources. I don't, but say I have tech resources and somebody else has the actual, lo'i, or they're raising pigs or something, and we want to bring that together so that we can maybe make an interactive app where people can learn about pigs or farming or that kind of a thing. So Kanaio kind of tries to help make those connections with different organizations, different people, so that we can create this tool or this app for the greater community. So definitely a great resource, but if you have time to sit and contribute to that greater goal of just being available to partner with somebody, or even just to share your mana'o on what would help you and your organization, because what helps one of us definitely is going to help all of us. So Kanaio Kana, another one that you might want to check out.
Awesome. Mahalo nui.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, mahalo, Sarah. Kumukahi.org has lots of videos as well that they did. I think those are for geared towards keiki. But the information that is shared on those videos are wonderful. So it's narrated for keiki, but most of the videos go and visit some place or talk to experts in different fields. So while those experts are talking, it's not necessarily directed towards preschoolers or young children. So those may still be appropriate for older levels too. Mahalo, Sarah, for sharing that. And with that, we are almost out of time. So I'm going to resources. Yes, I will put those resources in the chat that I just shared. And then I'll turn it over to Moani to close us out. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo, Kalaiku. That was a wonderful presentation and we all enjoyed it. Just give me a few minutes and please stay on, everybody. I'm going to drop into the chat the survey for Kalaiku's presentation. Can you please take a few minutes to fill it out? And after you're done, please close it out so that it's, I think there's another survey for the whole entire conference. It needs to be closed out so that you can do the next one. If it's not closed out, then it'll be, you won't be able to get it done. And then this is what's gonna help get your DHS certificates to you. So please take a few moments to look at that. And then just a quick reminder, if you go through this chat really quick, there's a bunch of different resources that you can pull up. And I believe that it's also being saved, so you guys can re-access it. Mahalo nui. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your time and for all of your questions and participation and being with us today. Have a good day. Mahalo.